It is my pleasure to welcome Helene Johnson as our presenter today. Helene Johnson's career has focused on continuing and professional education in corporate, public, and nonprofit settings. She retired after 38 years as executive director of a small nonprofit, which provided educational programs for local government decision makers, staff, and advisory commission members in Minnesota, as well as their collaborators. She's been a resident of Golden Valley since 1989 and began her volunteer involvement here in 2004 as co-facilitator for the Golden Valley visioning process, which was supported by Rotary. She continued as a member of the Envision Connection Project Board, a bridge builder, and a founding board member of the Golden Valley Community Foundation, where she still serves. Helene started Global Golden Valley in 2012 as a way to highlight, celebrate, and connect those from different cultures in our city with other interested individuals. She's traveled extensively in various capacities, study abroad, sister city exchanges, and country-to-country partnerships, spouse of a group travel agent, lifelong learner, sounds wonderful, and believes strongly in the benefits of taking advantage of the world, what the world has to offer, far away and here in our own city. It is my pleasure to welcome Helene Johnson as our presenter today. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm pleased that people came because it's certainly an odd time to be talking about global when we have other than a pandemic. I just wanted to say, I'm sure that each of you have some connection to other parts of the world. I have a few that I think are very unusual, so I'll just mention them. I was studying as a college student in Japan the summer that we landed a man on the moon, and it was incredible because I walked past a storefront where they had all of these TVs on. They were all showing this, and all of the Japanese people turned to me and congratulated me. So I had a lot to do with that. Secondly, as she mentioned, my late husband was a group travel arranger for College City travel. We met at Carleton College, so it was in Northfield. And so on our honeymoon, we took 3 musical groups, including 250 people, to Scandinavia on our honeymoon. Yeah, it was very exciting. And one thing I learned was that people think that because you're a spouse to the director, that you know everything. I don't know everything about it. So that was interesting, you know. And then third, I had a chance to be with my husband, interim staff members for a cast of Up With People. And it's a performing group, and it has people from lots of countries that come together. And a lot of what we did, this was in '72, a lot of what we did was go into high schools and show that people of different colors and backgrounds can actually work together and share their thoughts about that and peace. So this all happened in my 20s, and so then when I continued on, I've just had a lot of travel experiences, and I have had a lot of interest in continuing it. And I didn't notice, I knew we had people that were involved, or from other countries. And I bet many of you have. But I didn't see them. I didn't run across them in Golden Valley when I moved here. And so I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. I know there are some around. So I actually then decided to just convene, set a time and convene people who might be interested. And that's how it started. So now I'm going to go to my shared screen so that I can show you a PowerPoint. Okay, so bye. No. All right, so how do we do this? Share. All right, share. Okay, and what is it doing now?
It's, you got oh, you're getting there.
Okay, I'm working on it.
So do you need to open it on the left in PowerPoint?
All right, I
There we
think
go.
I've got the right spot.
We get to see everything you're doing. It's one of those lessons of be careful what other tabs you have open every once in a while. You know?
Oh, yeah, okay. All right. So, oh, I'm starting the slideshow. Yeah, this is the first time I've been on so many Zooms, but this is the first time I've actually presented one.
It
Okay.
shows great, and we can still see you, by the way. The way I have my view set up, I can see people, including you. So we get your face as well.
Oh, all right. Okay. So I was, as I mentioned, you know, we do have, we're very restricted right now. And Peggy knows that we originally had these great ideas about presenting way back in April. And I said, well, nobody's going to have any interest in talking globally right now. And we can't do some of the things that we wanted to do. So we moved it back, and guess what? We're still in a pandemic. We still have restrictions, but it's time to go ahead and talk about what can be now and what could be in the future. But first, I will start with who we are. We came together to promote multicultural understanding and ethnic diversity in our community. One of the things that I wanted to stress is that we are a program of the Golden Valley Community Foundation, which provides some financial support for us. We have a core group that plans and organizes the activities, and we have had members that represent different countries, including Romania, Ethiopia, Mexico, China, and we've had US-born people who are interested in learning about those cultures. So that's our group. So I don't know if people can see, because the pictures are on top of some of this, but we have actually 9.8% of our residents as of 2012, and based on the 2010 census, are foreign born, which is a lot more than I thought. And probably we have a lot of children too in that number. And these are the countries of those who self-reported in 2010, and it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens in 2020, because I'm not sure that people, you know, what they're going to be doing. We have, so it's listed as the highest number to the lowest number. So Belarus has 170 people listed here in Golden Valley, and then Ecuador and Guyana have 6 each. And that is the point at which the census doesn't, you know, cluster them. But what's so funny is that we have people on our committee who are from countries other than the ones listed. So we know that there are others that are in our city. And we have been trying to highlight. We have a whole bunch of countries that can be highlighted in our programs. So I'm going to move this down. Good. So we're probably best known for our International Day at Market in the Valley. And this is where we bring together performers, dance, you know, instrumental, singing, etc., to showcase their cultures, their particular music or dance. We also have special children's activities. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, it didn't happen this last summer, and I'm hoping that next summer we will be reconvening. And we highlight different cultures as much as possible every year. In education, we have done Who is Your Neighbor programs, and we've done it for different organizations. We were also a place where people could use us as a way to connect with the community about their particular experience. A while back, Armstrong students actually went to Japan, and we held we gave them an opportunity to share their experience with the residents of Golden Valley at the library. Special projects, we've actually had a naturalization ceremony, which was really an exciting thing at the City Hall. We have a welcome reception that we do for international high school students, which, by the way, I mean, these are foreign students that come for a year or 6 months and go to high school. And this is really a difficult thing to pull off because the counselors are really swamped, and it's so hard to pin them down as to who's there, and we cannot reach the students directly by email. It has to go through the school. But we have prevailed, and we are pleased. It's been really fun. And we also have been involved in working with a Golden Valley resident on displaying some beautiful photographs of families, including a couple from Golden Valley. So we added ours along the way. Here are just some pictures of the people who, people and kinds of programs. And you can see that those are up in the upper right are some of the foreign students that were at our welcome reception and with the mayor. And because of space, I could not expand it to include all of the council members and our committee members, but we were all there. And then this, I was facilitating, so down middle bottom, some of the discussion between the different high school students, and they were sharing about their countries and what they find different in Golden Valley, etc. You can see some of the musicians that we've had. They specialize in South America. We had mariachi performers, and we had a Chinese group, and so this is just sort of a smattering. What I wanted to do when we talked to Peggy was to talk about the kinds of things that we were excited about doing and expanding. One of the things that came up recently actually was maybe using Next Door Neighbor or some kind of Zoom to connect people. We found that Next Door Neighbor, we have people who are introducing themselves, and we had a couple that said that they were Muslim, and that's unusual. I think it's because of the pandemic that we have we're in our houses and we can't really officially meet any other way, so people are sharing a little bit more. So perhaps there's a way to utilize that technology for the connection now, and there are other things we could do. We could share travel highlights, we could discuss issues. I thought that maybe people might want to have a chance to share to their travel experiences from the past, obviously, to a broader audience. We also have someone on our committee who has experience helping with ESL language classes, so that was a thought. We also have been thinking about having community conversations, and part of dilemma was, who would that be for? Are those new, for those that are new to Golden Valley, those that are programs really focused on the immigration process or issues, or is it just talking with everybody who is interested to find common ground? And another one is the whole idea of welcome meals. Potlucks in homes or community settings. They could be sponsored by an organization. They could have a specific theme. Now, I also there are two that would take quite a bit of energy. One is a passport idea, which was done in Alaska, and it really, Alaska is very diverse, and I think this, maybe it's Juneau, I'm not sure what city it was, but, and so what they did was they came up with little snapshots of what people wanted to share, you know, about their traditions, and they published this book, and they actually have are willing to share how they went about it with other cities. And then we had some initial discussions with the mayor and several foundation members about, and actually a couple of community people, about the idea of a sister city for Golden Valley. And in our initial small group meetings, we were thinking, well, how do we choose one, etc. How do we engage people in this process? Sister City is something that has to be really undertaken by the city itself. But I did a Google search for another Golden Valley around the world, and I discovered one, I thought, and it was in South Africa. And then I discovered it had no population because it's an actual valley. But you can see that by what I've got up, that Bloomington is a resource in terms of welcome meals. They actually have done this for a while. They use a very large steering committee for that. So and we've met with the person in Bloomington who does that. So there are all kinds of possibilities. It's just a matter of deciding, you know, how we want to proceed and what makes sense for others in the community in terms of getting them involved. So that is definitely one of the reasons I wanted to come and talk to you, because you know, we've sort of reviewed what we are currently doing and some of our thoughts about future possibilities. And we wanted to know what other ideas you might have. Obviously, we need resources. There's some, you know, turnover on our steering committee, as there is everywhere. We have people who have small children, or they're going back for their masters or whatever, and they don't really have a lot of time for this. So, and we especially are interested in any contacts that, you know, with people who are from other countries and might be interested. So we thought that possibly people in Rotary with your network might know some of these people. It's hard to just, you know, we can't just knock on doors or whatever. I just discovered that the city attorney's husband is from Venezuela. Now, how would I have known that? You know? So I think we should ask him to be, you know, to get involved if he can. And then, you know, if we were to do the welcome meals, or especially that, but one of the other projects, we are really needing resources, although we are a program of the foundation. It's not going to be anything that can be totally funded by the foundation. So we just get a very small amount. So if we were to do welcome meals, and if it's sponsored, that would be great. And of course, any of you could certainly be welcomed to our events or to our steering committee. And so this is, you know, if you have ideas or you want to contact us, first of all, the website is, the official website is part of the foundation's website, but direct emails would best come to me, or text or whatever. So we will now just go back and just, I'm trying to get out of it now. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, so you know, I think that this is the time for, you know, feedback, for you know, just questions, whatever.
I have a question.
Sure.
And also a comment. I had no idea that Global Golden Valley had so many different programs and activities and stuff going on. Really fascinating. And the number of nationalities that are represented. Now, I didn't look through everything, but I didn't see Estonia on there. And my husband is Estonian. So.
See? See?
But what I wanted to ask, I was intrigued by, you said that you had done naturalization ceremonies at Golden Valley City Hall?
Just one.
Oh, okay. So it's not a natural kind of, or a normal activity.
No, it was one of the things that we had to do. It was on a Saturday, and so that does involve the city hall being open and staff there. So it's not something we can do all the time, but it just seemed like such a beautiful setting for that kind of an event, to do it, you know, in the council chambers and so forth. And it's set up nicely for them. And we got, and they got the judge and everything. So maybe once every 10 years, I don't know.
I've actually participated in some naturalization ceremonies with the League of Women Voters to make sure that people get registered to vote when they become citizens. And I think it'd be really cool if we could have more of those ceremonies here.
Right, and it, you know, we actually had, is it Best Floral, Best
Wishes.
that actually donated roses, and so as they, each of the people got a rose when they were naturalized, and we did an actual follow-up reception for them and their family. So it was nice. It was very personal. And none of them were from Golden Valley. We originally had thought, well, this would be great to do for our residents. And they choose, you know, once you are working with them, they have a group that's next in line, and they invite them.
I'm curious how much you've learned or are kind of tuned into those who come with refugee status. I know, having worked in this in the past, that the Resettlement Program Office, RPO, a function of the state, there's a website actually you can go to and see the different countries where people have come in from into Minnesota, and just absolutely fascinating. But wondering about refugee status, if that's something that you've
Not specifically, no. So, but you never know.
Yeah, the story of what brings you here. Everybody's got a different one for sure.
Right, and generally they've been the people who have been the presenters have been people who have been here for a while. You know, but they all have interesting stories.
Could you speak a little bit more about connecting with exchange students, foreign exchange students?
Yeah, we our idea was to ask the different high school to, to share the information and with their students. And like I said, it's even hard in the fall to find for counselors to tell me how many students that they have coming. It's amazing. Now you learn a lot about the fluidity of it. Some of it is because they don't have the families and so forth that, that they need to host people. So they find out that they can't come. I don't know. So we've had about, at the most, we've had about 15 that come. They don't necessarily know each other across the high schools at that time. They may have events later. So, and there are a lot of programs. It's not just AFS. So I don't know if that answered your question. So when we have them, we start out with a session that talks a bit about Golden Valley, ask them to talk about their countries. We tend to have a lot of them from China and Russia and then miscellaneous. So, but we get clusters from China especially.
I would imagine that you probably need to go to the organizations themselves, like the Amity Aids and Rotary and the different groups, because
Right.
high schools will be very reticent about sharing student information. And we had a Rotary student a number of years back, and there was he ended up being moved from Cooper to Armstrong, and Armstrong had a wonderful counseling program. I think they might have met even once a week with all of the exchange students, and they all came from a number of different organizations that, help sponsor them, besides AFS and Rotary.
Well, that was our hope, and I think that that's a good idea. There are a number of programs like Rotary as well as AFS, and one of the neat things about it was, I remember we had a display set up at the Pride Festival, I believe it was, and one of the students that came to our session stopped by, and just before he was leaving to go back home. So he remembered, and he thought it was a fun experience. So you often don't hear anything, they go back to their schools, and so.
Other questions? I'm curious, in your conversations with people, what kind of feedback you've gathered about, say, Golden Valley or some of our norms and cultures. Are there things that perhaps we couldn't do that you've identified that might be more welcoming, that might create more space for those of different backgrounds to feel comfortable coming in? Yeah, I always wonder, what do they think about us, right?
Right. Well, I think that those welcome meals, I really have heard a lot of good things about what has happened in Bloomington. It's just a matter of really learning by meeting in small groups and potlucks or whatever. I believe the city does give out packets and so forth, but one of the things that's real interesting right now is that we have a lot of transient people because we have so many more apartments or rental units. And so it's even hard to get, even the foundation has found it difficult to connect with people and to get some kind of investment in the community. But I think that initially the problem is more that they don't have a way to connect easily. And so they tend to stay with their group.
Right. And that's interesting that you say that about the cost of housing. I'm sitting on the Golden Valley Energy Commission and talking about some of the priorities going forward. And one of them is affordability. So looking at low income individuals, and of course the work at PRISM, this is who we serve. And increasingly, there's a perception that Golden Valley is quite the affluent community, which however you might understand it, it also means that it might not be as accessible for first, second, or even third generation newcomers to the United States.
Right.
It typically takes a few generations to kind of build up some of that wealth and assets. So it's an interesting perspective when we think about the global diversity and the value of it within our city, as well as our kind of current financial status or potential. So, great point.
Are you familiar with the Just Deeds program then? That's happening. One of the things that made sense to me was to connect with the Rising Tides group and the city staff about Just Deeds, which are the covenants that have been restrictive to people of color, and that means the impact of that has been just creating a city that is like Edina in the difference, between how many are white and how many are of color. Now we have to remember that a lot of the foreign born are white. I mean, if they're coming from Europe or, other places, that they don't necessarily show up as people of color. However, so their statistics are different than what's showing on the census, for example. But they say that like 25% of housing is owned by people who are of color. And we're like Edina. I was really surprised to find that out, because I keep thinking of Golden Valley as being very open. And I think part of that is because we have so many same-sex couples who have identified Golden Valley as a welcoming place for them. And so I just extrapolated. And so now the city has hired their equity director, and this is a major program, initiative that they are looking to work on with a coalition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, diversity can really encompass a wide array of different attributes and cultures and norms. And as research, and some might say common sense, the richer the diversity, the richer the experience that we have. We did have a presenter a couple of weeks ago about the covenants, and certainly at the time that those covenants were drawn up, it was not as welcoming and as safe of a place for all. And if we look at our history, it gives good insight into the way things are now and what we might need to compensate and correct for. But this is so interesting, in hearing about just the many different cultures and countries that are closer than I bet many of us realize in our day-to-day treadings through Golden Valley.
Right. So yeah, it's like, well, we have resources in our city, and they're just not being tapped, or they don't feel like they know how to be tapped. They aren't as visible, like in city commissions, and
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, how are we doing outreach and getting information? And how might we need to change what we're doing? That's a big part of equity. It's not just saying, hey, anybody can come in, but what do we need to change so that more people can feel safe and able to come in? Really taking a look at ourselves as well. So as the pandemic, we're hoping, wraps up, knock on wood, in any sort of reasonable time frame. But as life resumes, Helene, what would be the best way for people to stay in contact with what you're doing, or to stay abreast of different happenings?
Well, I think that there was that one slide, so I don't know if you can somehow forward my email, because I'm the direct person, I think. And there is a Facebook page, but I have to tell you that it is not anything I'm proud of, because there's no one that knows how to do it.
So opportunity for new members.
Yes.
Actually, I wanted to ask about that in particular, because just as an example, I knew about Rotary before joining Rotary, but I actually joined Rotary. The marginal decision, let's say, was made in part because of the Facebook page and the timing. And not that I'm on Facebook all the time or anything, but it just happened where it came up in my feed in the Golden Valley page. And the Golden Valley website itself, I will say, has gotten quite a bit of traction. And also on Nextdoor, there's quite a bit there. Now, there's also a lot of black holes you can go into in social media. So I'm not trying to just give a blanket approval of all activity and things that people say and do. But I just wanted to say that that's a really good thing. And I'd be personally happy to reach out to you, Helene, as far as trying to add some energy to it.
Oh, goody.
So I can't really say a whole lot besides that right now, but I know a lot about social medias, and yeah.
People
Yeah, well,
right here, connecting the community. Thank you, Thomas.
So, well, all I need is a contact for you, and we're fine. Yeah. So, and I just thought you're right. Under chat, I can also tell you my email.
Yeah. So keep us posted, Helene, on what's happening. And as you know, we slowly start coming back to life here again. Happy to share through the Rotary Club to help expand your reach a little bit as well. This is really valuable project, and something that I think probably a lot more residents of Golden Valley would be quite interested in.
Right. Right. It's so hard, you know, because we don't have any way to get out there now. You know, I mean, our International Day, our just, you know, when we're at events and we have a display, we can talk to them, but it's really right now very limited.
And now it's cold, so we're inside.
Yeah, I know.
So embrace the Zooms and the Facebooks and our social medias. This is our connection for the future for a bit. Well, thank you, Helene, so much for your time today. We are very grateful.
Well, like I said, you know, it's not something we can't jump out and do a welcome meal right now, but you know, at least maybe it's in the back of our minds for the future.
Doing some preparation for when the world does open up again. We'll be ready.
Yes, let's hope. Let's hope. I have places on my bucket list that I haven't gotten to yet.
Right.
So, well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So as we wrap things up, we're going to recite the 4-way test of the things that we think, say, and do as Rotarians. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And bong. And when we would meet in person, there would always be a bell that rings. I don't salivate from it, but I'm used to hearing the bell ring. So there's the bong to conclude today's Rotary session. Lovely to see you all. Drive safe, stay warm, be healthy. See you guys next week.